is Rich James from Columbus State, and I'm going to review 6 techniques derived from research and experience that will help you produce an effective screencast. A screencast is a video produced by capturing visuals, text, and audio from a computer screen. If you have followed the learning design process, you have selected a screencast as one of several learning methods that will help students reach your intended learning outcomes. This screencast focuses on design techniques that can be used with production tools such as Camtasia, Captivate, Lexshare, or another application. Using these will help you keep your audience engaged, be they green meanies or anyone else. Your first design consideration should be that the human brain can only hold so much information in working memory at one time. Too much information leads to overload and can decrease how much information is moved to long-term memory. Research has shown that we can hold 5 to 9 discrete bits of information in working memory at one time. This is expressed by the formula 7 plus or minus 2. This has led to a practice known as chunking, whereby a large volume of information is broken into manageable chunks. If the information is very new to the learner, or the learner does not have a pre-existing mental model in which to integrate it, they will probably have difficulty assimilating more than 5 new ideas at a time. If you define learning as the ability to store, recall, and apply knowledge from memory, then moving this new information to long-term memory is very important. For that to happen, learners must do something with the information. They need to apply or practice it. Therefore, your screencast may prepare students for other learning activities by priming them to understand reading material or prepare them for collaborative activity. You may have more than one screencast followed by a quiz or activity. Just remember to chunk your information to meet the working memory capacity of your students. The next technique applies to the design of your slides. It comes from research and practice conducted by engineers and scientists who were seeking a more effective use of PowerPoint in scientific presentations. They felt that the default design for PowerPoint, which is to have a topic heading followed by bullet points, was ineffective because it was not memorable and did not engage either the listener or the presenter in the subject. They changed the topic heading to an assertion and used the remaining slide space to illustrate or defend it. This focused the presenters on the fundamental points they were trying to make and engaged the audience in understanding the assertion. In research on their own students, they found that when the assertion plus evidence model was used, students were able to recall more of the information from the presentation. Changing your slides to this format is a simple but profound change. It may lead to a major overhaul of lectures you have been giving for some time. But if you have been following the learning design process, you should have clarity on your major learning objectives, and this will help you determine the content of your screencast. Here is one way of applying the first 2 techniques. Chunk your material into 5 to 9 slides, and then state those ideas as assertions. Your presentation then becomes the evidence and illustration for these fundamental points. Try this out and see if it works. Does it work for your subject matter? Leave some feedback in the comments area of this module. Another thing you may have noticed about the previous examples was the heavy use of graphics. A picture is indeed worth 1,000 words. Consider this generic PowerPoint version of the preceding slide. It puts you to sleep, doesn't it? This is much better. Visuals are information dense because they can be used to represent ideas, create context, and show relationships. In a glance, the viewer can learn a great deal. In 2007, the Poynter Institute studied how people read online. One of their findings was that people who read what they called non-traditional narratives perform better on comprehension tests than those who read only text. So the lesson is to, whenever you can, create a meaningful visual representation of your ideas. Applying the 3 previous techniques will go a long way to improving your screencast. The next 3 will help you refine these principles and make them even more effective. The remaining techniques are derived mainly from research conducted by Roxana Moreno and Richard Meyer. In their study of the effect of multimedia on learning, they have identified several principles. The first takes us back to considering the working memory of the brain. Research suggests that the brain has 2 channels for working memory, one for auditory and the other for visual information. By engaging both channels, you can take full advantage of the brain's working memory capacity. This is the modality principle. Now, does this mean you should read all the text that's on the screen? Well, I'll let comedian Don McMillan answer that question.
There's some things I hate about PowerPoint, and I figure it's kind of my duty to point them out. So here we go. Here's common PowerPoint mistakes. Number one, people tend to put every word they are going to say on their PowerPoint slides. Although this eliminates the need to memorize your talk, ultimately this makes your slides crowded, wordy, and boring. You will lose your audience's attention before you even reach the bottom of your first slide. Please don't do that anymore, please.
Ouch! Thanks, Don. We laugh because it hurts. And there is research behind his humor. As you can see by the diagram, redundant text can actually overload the visual channel of working memory. Now, if no other graphics are used, redundant text may be helpful for complex information or ideas. You will know from experience which concepts will benefit from redundant reinforcement. For the others, you may be reading your students to sleep. The last principle is that people remember personalized language more than formal language. This includes use of the first or second person pronouns, I and you, instead of the dispassionate third person, he, she, or they, or the ambiguous one. When you speak directly to learners as individuals, following normal conversational conventions, learners will be more engaged. It is as if, as program designer Kathy Sierra argued, the brain thinks it is in a conversation, and therefore has to pay more attention to hold up its end of the deal. Here again are the 6 techniques that will help you design a better screencast. Boil your subject down to several essential elements. State those elements as assertions and illustrate them. Use visuals to represent data, processes, and relationships. Let graphics and audio complement each other and avoid redundant narration when it's unnecessary. Finally, have a conversation with your audience. Together, these techniques will help you engage your learners. Explore the resources in this module. You can read about the research and theory behind each technique. Try out some of the tools and sources for graphics and photos. You do not need to be a graphic designer to create good visuals. Use the learning design process to define the learning activity for your unit. Share your thoughts in the discussion area of this module. We can learn from each other to produce better screencasts. Determine which 5 to 9 essential elements you want to convey via a screencast. Make a prototype of your screencast. Nothing is perfect the first, second, or even third time. Make a rough presentation and solicit feedback. If you can get feedback from a student, all the better. We can use as many screencast tricks as we can fit in our bag, but in the end, our students will be the ones who can tell us what helps them learn. Good luck!